Last night I read 20 and 21, which I figured out before I got started and reread 21. Wouldn't have been a bad deal. We're on chapter 22. Okay, unlocked. The light bathed the family with a special fresh feeling. It seemed something like the wetness of water. The old red bike and its passengers flowed forward in a fast current. Up ahead, John saw a spot of blue. In no time they reached it, and the bike and its passengers popped out into a clear sky. They were high in the air over the old Centerville dump. John looked back just in time to see the white tunnel of light close and disappear in the blue sky. The path that came from the deeper world was gone. Oh, there's Epton Kaboom. Keep an eye on those trolls, but if they do a bunch of them, more than one, leave one for me to check on. I like to go to their channel and make sure they're whatever, just I check on them. The date mainly the main thing I'm interested in is because somebody from Colorado was here, and I think that's who was doing this. And they would have, if they were reaching a date within the time frame from the time they left here and then that's who it is, probably. Okay. The old red bike kept flying fast. John held on tightly to Catherine's hand. The whole family was still holding hands. They seemed as light as balloons through the dark chains though the dark chains were on their necks. Their eyes were still closed. The spirit flyer led them all away from Centerville. Before long it dropped down, circling over the weedy, overgrown yard of a white house with blue shutters. The house seemed abandoned. None of the windows were broken, but the paint was peeling. A long white building with two big blue doors stood next to the house. The spirit flyer circled once more, then dropped lower, flying straight for the large blue doors. John feared they would crash, but as the bike with the parade of prisoners flew closer, the big doors swung open. The spirit flyer glided inside, stopped in the air, then dropped softly to the cement floor. Catherine, Lois, Susan, Aunt Betty, and Uncle Bill still all landed on their feet. John hopped off, letting go of Catherine's hand. The rest of the family still held hands, their eyes closed, their dark chains intact. John shook Susan by her shoulder. Her own chain rattled around his neck. His own chain rattled around his neck. "Wake up, Susan," John urged, but her eyes remained shut. Uncle Bill, Aunt Betty, Lois, Catherine. Each one seemed to be in a deep sleep. "What now?" John asked. The bike had landed in a kind of hallway. John decided to try a closed door. "Maybe there's a telephone in there," John said. Right. He opened the door. The room he entered was filled with boxes and crates, covered with dust and cobwebs. John knew that some of the boxes had been opened recently. Handprints marked the dust. John worked his way through the boxes to a workbench against the wall. He didn't see a phone. The boy leaned against the workbench, wondering what he should do. When he felt a piece of metal under his hand, he picked it up. The unusual shape interested him. He brushed off the dust and looked closer. It was some sort of key. And where most keys had nicks and cuts and grooves, this key was flat and smooth. John examined the strange marks on it. He turned it over, his eyes open wide. Stamped in the gold-colored metal was the mark, the sign of the three crowns. John ran back to the other room and to tell his family, forgetting in his excitement that they were still chained. Slaves of some kind of sleep or spell. Wake up, John called. "I have something from the three kings." They stood still like breathing statues. John held up the key. At that instant there was a roar of deep music, and light filled the room. The Kramer family opened their eyes. They all saw the glorious magic light that filled the place. John still held up the key. For one deep magic moment, all six saw the wonders of the kingdom of the three magical kings, and from that deep kingdom, an arch of rainbow-colored light shot into the room and hit the golden key in John's hand. The light reflected off the key in 6 golden rays, which disappeared into the circled X locks on the chains. In a burst of music, the locks broke and the chains fell to the floor. Just as suddenly as it came, the light was gone. The music faded into peaceful silence. For a moment, no one spoke. They could still feel the music glow. The magic glow. "Where are we?" Catherine asked, rubbing her eyes. "At last we are safe." "Look, it's John," Susan shouted. She ran over and hugged him his neck. John hugged her. Uncle Bill looked around the room. He was puzzled. "Where are we?" Susan asked. "This place seems familiar somehow. Have we ever been here before?" "Yes," Uncle Bill said. He rubbed his jaw slowly. "And so has John. In fact, John used to spend many hours here years ago. This is his father's old workshop. Actually, your grandfather Kramer owns it. He said he would give it to John someday when John was ready. I never have understood what he meant." Everyone was quiet. John looked at the others, then at the strange key in his hand. "What happened?" Aunt Betty asked. "I thought we were at home." but something was wrong. A horrible dead smell was in the house. Then I had this bad dream. So did I, Uncle Bill said. We were in this terrible, dark place with a wall of blue flames, Lois said, and all those mean creatures. Only some look like people we know, sort of, but their faces are strange. They wore masks, Susan said. I must have had the same dream, too. We were at home, and there was that bad smell. Then that thing used the chains on our necks to put us into a tiny black box. We shrank. And then we went into that big cloud or something. A giant black snake swallowed us, Catherine said. It wasn't a cloud. The snake was evil and had red eyes. And red fangs, Aunt Betty added. I guess I had the same dream you did, but how? I remember feeling scared, as if I were falling into the mouth of that snake. I thought it was a tornado or first, but I remember the chains. We couldn't escape. We were slaves, Uncle Bill said. I must have dreamed the same dream too, only it was a nightmare. I didn't even notice my chain until we were in that black box. I still don't understand any of this. How did we get here? Didn't you dream that too? Lois asked. We held hands. We went as fast as light out of that dark place because John's bicycle, the Spirit Flyer, took us. I remember screaming for John over and over, Susan said. And those creatures said you were coming to save us. They said they would kill you when you came. Then they would kill all of us and make us into ashes, Uncle Bill added. But John, how did you get inside that dark place? John told them as much as he remembered from the time he flew to Grandfather Kramer's house until the rainbow-colored light reflected off the key and freed them from their chains. And see, there are the chains, John said, pointing at the floor. And this is the key. But here's your gun, Uncle Bill. And here's your gun, Uncle Bill. I'm sorry the barrel got melted, but that proves it wasn't a dream. Maybe it was like a dream. That's because it was part of the deeper world. Uncle Bill held the key and ruined gun with his hand. He shook his head slowly, not saying a word. Then he reached down and picked up his chain. This chain has my name on it, Uncle Bill said. He ran his fingers over the letters. This chain has my name on it too, Susan said, picking up the chain at her feet. And so does mine, Lois said. Look how big it is. Mine too, Catherine said. Aunt Betty looked at her chain, then nodded. John held his chain, looking carefully at the broken, circled X lock. I didn't even know I had a chain on me until that demon that looked like Barry Smedlow wanted to fight, John said. I felt real weak, like I would fall right off my bike, but the Spirit Flyer helped me. A funny old horn tooted outside, followed by a chug-chug sound. Someone's coming, Lois said. It sounds like a tractor. The whole Kramer family went outside. It's probably Salty Harper, Uncle Bill said. His farmer's near here. They all stared at the dirt road that passed in front of the house. The chug-chug sound got louder, but no one came in sight. Look, it is a tractor, John said. Instead of pointing at the road, he pointed at the sky behind the house. Everyone looked. Uncle Bill's mouth fell open in disbelief. It's Grandpa, Lois screeched, and he's flying. Aunt Betty couldn't stop smiling as she watched the old red tractor chug over the rooftop and down into the front lawn. As John and his cousins ran over to greet Grandfather Kramer, Aunt Betty squeezed her husband's hand. Uncle Bill finally smiled, staring hard into the eyes of his father. The old man winked back, then began showing his grandkids, son, whatever. Let me show you the picture there. I split wood today with a splitting maul. Second time. Got to get back in that. I love it. I love doing it. But my hand hurts a little bit. I haven't done that so long. My muscles are so crappy. The old man winked back, then began showing his grandchildren the mysteries and wonders of the old tractor. For more than 2 hours, the children played on the old red tractor and John's bicycle. Grandfather Kramer even let John fly the tractor all by himself. Just be careful not to touch any of the gears or other buttons, the old man said, and don't go out of the borders of this yard and that field. This is a special place. While the children played, Grandfather Kramer, Uncle Bill, and Aunt Betty talked, sitting on the porch steps of the house. But why didn't you ever show me or tell me, Uncle Bill asked. I did. I took you for rides all the time when you were a child, but you forgot, the old man said. And when you got older, you were never ready to listen or see. Today is the first time your eyes and ears have been opened to the deeper world. When those chains fell off, you were free in more ways than one. I almost feel as if I remember flying on that old tractor now, Uncle Bill said, but it's like a dream, too. That was so long ago. We forget too many things about childhood, the old man said. A child is ready for magic, ready to hop right on a magic bicycle and fly. In fact, let's enjoy the magic we have right now, Grandfather Kramer said. You don't have to be a child. Let's all take a ride on the Spirit Flyer Harvester. The harvest has been rich today. Let us ride and give thanks. Soon the whole family was hanging onto the old red tractor, screaming and giggling as Grandfather Kramer drove. They dipped and soared and looped in circles bigger than Ferris wheels. Time seemed to stop as they flew up and around and over the tiny farm of John's parents. Tiny farm of John's parents. Oh, yeah, the farm around there. And, only Grandfather Kramer could see the long shadow shaped like a snake, lingering just outside the fences that box bordered the farm. He knew the shadow was not allowed to cross and darken the deeper joy of their rescue from the chains. And although he couldn't see them without his special goggles, he knew the others were standing guard. He could hear their music. The Angoloi were standing guard. He could hear their music. Nice to be able to hear that music, hey? So, there you go. Deeper world. There's a deeper world out there, and most of us are not aware of it and don't care. We're ignorant, we're blind, and we're stupid because we're giving into the evil of that deeper world, the wrong side of the deeper world. There's a good side and there's a bad side, and we're being hateful, spiteful, insulting other people, stabbing them in the back, sowing discord among brethren, quick to speak evil, quick to do evil. Too many believers, quote unquote believers, remnant believers. My son-in-law the other day said he calls himself a Christ follower. I kind of use the word phrase remnant believers, but I don't use and have not used the word Christian in a long time because it's just so perverted now. Christians are so watered down and disgustingly worldly that it doesn't really mean anything. Christendom doesn't mean anything. The Christian church doesn't mean anything. Too much like the world. So. All right, well, I'm going to sign up here. My throat is scratchy-atchy. Hey, Getty, how you doing there, buddy? Good to see you. On. Finally. Missed again. All right, I'm going to sign off. Bye-bye. Good night.